You are listening to the Nightline Sports Network, brought to you by Travis Dever and the Dever team, 386-690-1636.
Welcome to the AAC Report, only on the Nightline Sports Network. I'm Jeff Allen. Happy New Year. We are underway in 2021. Coming up, we'll start checking in on college basketball. Our first trip will be to Taylor Eldridge of the Wichita Eagle to talk about the Wichita State Shockers. That's coming up. As Taylor stands by in the virtual green room, he will join us in just a few minutes. Meanwhile, let's put a bow on the college football season in the American. Last couple of bowl games to look back upon as Mississippi State defeated number 22 Tulsa 28-26 in the Armed Forces Bowl. Unfortunately, the game got headlines for all the wrong reasons as a big giant brawl, a pure sixer, those of you who are wrestling fans will know what that means, broke out after the game, which certainly disappointed not only AAC Commissioner Mike Oresco, but the Tulsa administration and their fan base, the Mississippi State fan base and their administration, and certainly a very ugly incident. As far as the game itself, for Tulsa, Deneric Prince and Corey Tiller II scored rushing touchdowns. Zach Smith had a 15-yard touchdown pass to Keelan Stokes. Zach Long kicked field goals of 27 and 33 yards. Coach Montgomery recapping his team's bowl game and the season.
Yeah, I was proud of our football team. I thought we did a great job of just battling all the way through. Thought our defense played extremely well. Stood up at some important times. I thought offensively, really did some good things. Faced some adverse parts of it with a couple of guys, being down. But guys just stepped up, kept battling, made plays. Obviously, we got points down in the red zone. We needed touchdowns a little bit more. But I was proud of our football team, just like I have been all year long. Guys that just continue to keep battling, and this group is a special group.
Coach Montgomery also addressed that bitter post-game brawl.
I'm not going to comment a whole lot about it. The one thing I'll say is, our program, our guys, we're a team that are going to stand up for each other, and we're going to battle. And we talk about faith, family, football, and family's going to take care of family. So, we're a team that has battled all year long. We battled again today. And, from that standpoint, our guys are going to continue to protect each other and go from there.
And again, certainly a black eye for the sport and not a good look for both teams and their respective conferences. And Jack Podlesny kicked a 53-yard field goal with 3 seconds left as number 11 Georgia down number 6 Cincinnati, giving the Bearcats their only loss of the season, 24-21 in the Peach Bowl on New Year's Day. The Bearcats D held Georgia in check numerous times. Desmond Ridder completed 24-37 passes for 206 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jerome Ford, a career-long 79-yard touchdown early in the second half, but not enough for the Bearcats as their undefeated season goes by the boards in the New Year's Six Bowl game. Bearcats head coach Luke Fickell.
Like I told our guys, it's very disappointing when you come out so close, but it's not. We're not disappointed. I can't tell you how proud I am of. I say the seniors all the time, but how proud I am of all these guys, and all the different circumstances and all the things that have gone on, not just this year, but especially in the last probably month and a half, and how these guys have handled it, how these guys have continued to move forward, how these guys have continued to take care of one another, is what this game is really all about. And so it hurts. Every one of those guys in there hurt because they care so much and they've worked so hard and sacrificed, and it is what it is. We'll be better because of it.
And all said and done, still a tremendous season for the Cincinnati Bearcats. Meanwhile, looking at some postseason awards, Tulsa linebacker Zaven Collins, who was chosen earlier as the winner of the 2020 Bronco Nagurski Trophy as the nation's top defensive player, is a fixture on the first team of many national outlets' All-American teams. Cincinnati, represented by cornerback Ahmed Gardner and safety James Wiggins, were both chosen to the AP second team. Gardner was a first-team choice of USA Today, while Wiggins took first-team honors from The Athletic. Houston punt returner Marcus Jones, a first-team selection of CBS Sports, and Tulane's Patrick Johnson, a second-team defensive lineman by the Sporting News. Let's go over the full list, shall we? On the National American teams, AAC players, including on the AP, as we mentioned, Zaven Collins on the first team, Gardner and Wiggins on the second team. In the American Football Coaches Association, Collins was a first-team pick and Gardner a second-team pick. On the Sporting News, it was Collins on the first team, Patrick Johnson on the second team. The Football Writers Association of America had Collins, Gardner, and Jones as first-team selections and Johnson as the second team. ESPN had Zaven Collins on the first team. CBS Sports had Collins on first team as well as Marcus Jones. Collins on the first team at USA Today along with Gardner from Cincinnati. The Athletic had Collins, Wiggins, and Gardner. First team on the first two, second team for Gardner on the last part there. Memphis quarterback Brady White, he was chosen as the winner of the 2020 William V. Campbell Trophy presented by Mazda as the top scholar athlete in college football. White will receive a $25,000 postgraduate scholarship as part of being the Campbell Trophy winner. He'll accept that award Thursday night on the virtual Home Depot College Football Awards program on ESPN, and will be recognized with a video tribute during the College Football Playoff National Championship game on Monday night. White is the first American Athletic Conference player to win the Campbell Trophy. He joined Navy cornerback Cameron Kenley among the 12 finalists for this year's award. Up next, we start checking in on college basketball. Taylor Eldridge of the Wichita Eagle joins us next to talk about the Wichita State Shockers when the AAC Report continues in just a moment.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else, New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Nightline. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
An auto accident can change your life forever. At Chad Barr Law, we are raising the bar on what to expect from your personal injury attorney. Hi, I'm Chad Barr, and I want you to know that our entire team is dedicated to providing you with the representation you deserve in your greatest time of need. If you or a loved one have been injured in an auto accident, call 407-599-9036 for a free consultation or visit chadbarlaw.com. At Chad Barr Law, our clients come to us in need and leave as family. Offices, Altamont Springs.
Looking for more out of your Porsche? Look no further than Flat6Motorsports.com. They have the widest selection of aftermarket Porsche parts anywhere in the world. With over 85 product lines and in-depth expertise, Flat6Motorsports.com is your one-stop shop for any Porsche performance needs. Whether you're shopping for intakes, exhausts, suspension, or tuning, they have you covered. Flat6Motorsports.com is the premier Porsche aftermarket specialist. Check them out at Flat6Motorsports.com.
All right, we are now in the midst of college hoops season, and we're going to do a check-in on the Wichita State Shockers. Joining us to do that now, Taylor Eldridge of the Wichita Eagle is here on the program. Taylor, thanks for being on once again.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
So let's kind of clean up a little bit of the off-season story. Of course, the biggest story in the off-season was the Gregg Marshall controversy, in which accusations came regarding physical and verbal abuse. He indeed does resign, takes almost $8 million payout, and it's certainly, I think, you could look back in the past and say with all the transfers, maybe the smoke was starting to come from a building that was on fire. Can you kind of put into words, Gregg Marshall had really brought Wichita State into national prominence as a basketball program. What will his legacy be? How much will it be tainted by this? And, how would you describe how all that went down?
Yeah, it will be interesting to see because, obviously, he's the all-time winningest coach in Wichita State history. He took the program to a Final Four. So much success, 7 straight NCAA tournaments. So, during the, these last few years, you would say, oh, absolutely. I mean, he's going to be, a Hall of Famer. They'll probably name the court after him. Maybe put up a statue, stuff like that. Just because he took the program to another level. And, with all of this, it's going to be interesting to see, how this plays out. I do think that, time will heal all wounds. If you read the buyout language, he never admitted any fault. So, nowhere in that resignation did he admit to doing anything wrong. Obviously, you can read in between the lines for, why he stepped down. Obviously, I think it's fair to assume that investigation turned up some kind of evidence against him that led to him stepping down. But, nowhere did he admit any wrongdoing. So I think, years down the road, there's already, a good chunk of WSU fans that still feel like, he was kind of shoved out the door in a wrong way. So I think, in a few years down the road, I think, that relationship's going to be pretty strong. And I think he will be well remembered by Wichita State fans, when they look back on the history, and they're going to have, Gregg Marshall to thank for that. So I think his reputation is still fairly good, in a lot of Wichita State's eyes. It will be interesting to see, after this agreement comes up and he's able to, talk about it. If he comes out and feels like he, got a raw deal at Wichita State, if he comes out and, says that, if that changes the perception at all. But as far as I know, I think that, down the road, his legacy is still going to be intact at Wichita State. Whether that remains true for the rest of the country, that's another question. But I think Wichita State fans still look at him pretty fondly.
Yeah, and certainly, if you look at, the fact that he has stepped away from the program, and probably, he's obviously proven he can build and turn programs. He certainly would be a commodity, I would think, somewhere down the road, maybe after a little bit of time away, but he would certainly have an opportunity to write a redemption story, if you will.
Yeah, I think he's, certainly, he's not even 60 years old yet, so, he could certainly, coach again if he wanted to. That's the question, though. He's said in interviews before that he wanted to stop coaching pretty early. He had mentioned before that 60 was around the age that he wanted to, step down from the coaching game, and I think he left I think he's 58 coming into this year. So, it's right about that time where he said that he wanted to get out of the coaching game. Obviously, he's got a nice buyout package from Wichita State, so, money's not a concern. So it wouldn't surprise me, honestly, if he just kind of, rides off into the sunset and, just starts playing golf and, spends time. As far as I know, I think they're still in Wichita, but I'm sure they, spend time at their home in, summer home in South Carolina, back where, Coach Marshall grew up. And so I wouldn't be surprised if he just kind of rides off into the sunset and doesn't coach again. But like you said, if he does want to coach, I don't think he would have any problem finding a job at some kind of mid-major program that's looking for, a coach of that renown that's able to turn programs around. But, as far as him getting, that major Power 5 job, that blue blood job, I think that's out of the question now.
All right, so what can you tell us about Issac Brown? He was the assistant coach, named the interim coach going into this season. Certainly the timing of that, did not give him a lot of time to ramp up. But what can you tell us about Issac Brown as the new head coach?
Yeah, longtime assistant coach, almost 2 decades in the industry as a Division I assistant. He was the top, lieutenant under Marshall's staff these last few years. So, going to him just made sense with, given how close to the season it was when Coach Marshall resigned. And I can tell you, the players, the former Shockers loved playing for him. Rashard Kelly was a former WSU player that really came out and was vocal, and how much of a player's coach that IB is. And, I think he just has that reputation. Fred VanVleet has come out in support of Coach Brown. So he just has that reputation as being a player's coach, of, instilling confidence in guys, letting players, play the game a little more freely, a little more loosely. And I think you've seen that in, these first 8 games with Wichita State. As I've said before, it's not an indictment. It's not a criticism of Coach Marshall and the way he ran, his program, but, it was a little more rigid. They did run, more offensive sets. Guys weren't allowed to, kind of express themselves, in the just, free-flowing offense. So, but obviously that worked. It led to a lot of wins, and that style can win. But it's also true, other styles can win too. And I think what you're seeing early in this season is more freedom in WSU's offense. They're not running as many sets. Guys are able to play a little more freely and loosely. They're able to shoot through, little slumps and play their way out of them. So I think both styles can obviously work, and WSU is still doing a lot of the same things that they did under Coach Marshall, but in those regards, they're playing a little bit differently.
And, of course, Issac Brown, it's an interesting opportunity ahead for him to land the job full-time. This is a strange basketball season, no matter how you slice it, given the COVID world that we live in. And I believe so far Wichita State has been able to avoid having any postponements to this point, to this date. Does the fact that it's 2020 kind of work in his favor, because it could be kind of a throwaway year in some respects, but an opportunity that it takes a little bit of the pressure off?
Yeah, I think certainly. And you look at the preseason poll the coaches voted in coming into the season, and this was before Coach Marshall resigned, but the investigation had happened, and I think a lot of people had question marks coming into the season on the Shockers, and they voted him 7th, out of 11 teams in the American. And I think WSU, relished that because, I think, their MO in the past is they're always really good as the hunter and instead of the hunted, which is kind of what they were in that first year in the American when, they were a top 10 team all season, but they didn't really play like it because, they didn't have that same hunger that they had, in the Missouri Valley days. I think, this season they're definitely, the hunter, and, they come out with 2 road wins. And, I think the pressure is kind of off, but, they have high expectations. They feel like they're an NCAA tournament team, and, they played like one so far this season to, have a nice 5-game winning streak, 3 straight road wins over pretty quality opponents. So, they have high hopes. And as far as a full-time job for Issac Brown, I think it's too early to discuss that. But, if WSU has a good season, I think he's definitely going to make that a very hard decision for, athletic director Darren Boatwright at the end of this season because, if the players really love playing for him, if they say, like, hey, we'll all come back, next season, and they have a good season this year, and they say, hey, we'll all come back if IB's back, that's going to make a very tough decision for Darren Boatwright on, the future of the program. But I can tell you, it's kind of hurt them in the short term in recruiting because, with the interim head coach, the Shockers can't really do anything right now. But like you said, this is a free season for everyone. So, potentially the whole roster could be back and they don't need to recruit. But right now that's kind of hamstrung them with a couple of local recruits because WSU, they don't know who the head coach is going to be next year. And they're probably not going to find that out until after this year.
And as you mentioned, they got a 5-game winning streak. They're 6-2 to start the season, 2-0 in conference. They've beaten Tulsa. They're coming off a win Saturday at Ole Miss, taking down an SEC team. And Wednesday night, of course, this show will release Thursday morning, so the result will not be available since we're recording ahead of time. But they're going to battle number 11 Houston, so that's a key pivotal early game in the American for the season, and then they'll face Cincinnati and Tulsa again as they start to get knee deep into the conference schedule. They've got a lot of they've got some decent players that return, and Etienne Udeze, Dexter Dennis, so they still were able to keep a good core to work with.
Yeah, I mean that's why their expectations were pretty high coming into the season, and those within the program actually thought they could be better this season than what they were last year. Obviously you look at last season, they started out 16-1, rose to top 20 in the country, and then things kind of unraveled and just did not go their way the last 6 weeks of the season, but. The Shockers thought that they could be right back in that mix, on the NCAA tournament bubble, and even better because, the pieces fit better this season. I think last year they just had, they didn't really have a natural point guard. They just had a bunch of, combo guards or guys that weren't natural point guards, but that could play the position. But, they just tried to force them in, and I think the egos kind of got involved too on the offensive end. A lot of guys felt like they should be getting theirs. And this year, you put in Alterique Gilbert, UConn grad transfer. He's just, he's the definition of a point guard. I mean, he can break down defenses, and he's always looking to dish out. And he gives WSU something that they haven't had in the recent history. Is someone that can break down defenses and get dribble penetration. And that's where WSU really struggled, especially last season. They just couldn't break down defenses and create help situations. So Alterique Gilbert has been a huge part of this, early start for WSU. And then Tyson Etienne, Dexter Dennis, Trey Wade, Mo Udeze, guys like that, they're all, veteran guys that are proven commodities. So like you said, I mean, the starting five is actually really, really good. The depth behind them was a little unproven coming into the season, but they've had a lot of success so far with the first-year guys. Ricky Council is a freshman that looks like a future star. Clarence Jackson is a high-energy JUCO guy off the bench who's just a rebounding menace and brings a lot of energy to the floor. So they have some nice options. I think their depth has improved, and with that starting five, I think they. Coming into this year, I didn't think it was, out of the realm that they did, push for a top three finish. I figured, Houston, SMU would be up there. After that, it was kind of a question mark, and that was Cincinnati off to a poor start. Memphis looking a little not as good as I thought they would. I think that door has been opened, for that 3, 4, 5 spot. So I think WSU, if they play well, I certainly think they can, finish high in the conference. And but Tulsa's going to have something to say about that. UCF, USF. So it's a deep conference, but I think that WSU certainly will be in the mix, especially getting 2 road wins to start out the season.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the teams and the depth of the conference, if you will, and the American, is probably potentially most likely a 3-bid league. Some years they're a 4-bid league. I wonder what the opportunity is for more bids given the current state of college basketball. Is the opportunity for the American to get more teams in a possibility, or is it like college football? Like Villanova's lost a lot of games, but they're probably going to get in by reputation. How do you see that playing out?
Yeah, I mean, I think Houston's definitely. They solidified themselves as a lock for the NCAA tournament. After that, I mean, it's really kind of wide open. I think the door, whoever finishes second and third in the conference, I think the second place team is definitely gonna get in, and then the third place team, I think that's they're gonna be on the bubble. I think the third and fourth place. I mean, you look at just the non-con schedule. I mean, it was so condensed this year that a lot of teams didn't get as many opportunities to score those marquee non-conference victories. So. Especially for Wichita State, it had its its preseason tournament. It had to pull out of its tournament because of COVID issues, so they lost out on 3 opportunities to score big wins, and then lost to Missouri and lost to Oklahoma State. So the road win at Ole Miss is nice, but I don't know if that's going to be a marquee victory at the end of the season. So I think the American is definitely getting 2 in, and I think it's possible to get 3, and like you said, a 4th in, if things break the right way. But I just think that the 2, 3, 4 are all going to be, probably close to the bubble. Hopefully they can get, 3 on the right side this year.
And with the lack of non-conference games, does the strength of the American, does it help or hurt? Because there's so many good teams in this conference, but they're not considered, one of the power conferences. Although I think they should be in basketball, but do you think it helps or hurt? Because, a lot, I think we saw this last year where, teams, it was almost like they kind of cannibalized themselves a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it would have been interesting to see, if that tournament happened. I think Cincinnati was right on the bubble. Obviously, WSU was right on the bubble. So it would have been interesting to see if those two would have gotten in. I think Houston was clearly in. So, it would have been interesting to see. And I mean, that's a good question. I don't know if the strength of the American, if that's going to help them, or because I think they are kind of considered, a step behind the Pac-12. So, you look at probably the 7th best conference in the country. I mean, I know that, Coach or Commissioner Oresco, he likes using that Power 7 term, trying to include the American and, the major conferences. But, they just haven't gotten the respect that, other major conferences has gotten in terms of, getting just the number of teams in. So I think they're still working toward that. So, I don't think they're going to get the benefit of the doubt come selection day. So that's why I'm kind of a little hesitant to say, they're for sure getting 3 teams in. I think right now they can feel comfortable that they're going to get 2 in. And then anything more than that would be a good success for them.
All right. Well, Taylor, please let the folks know where they can follow your coverage of the Shockers.
Yeah, you can read me on Kansas.com and then follow me on Twitter at Taylor Eldridge.
All right, Taylor. Well, thank you so much for the time, and we'll look to check in with you later on down the road.
All right. I appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
And now looking at the Player of the Week honors in college basketball, Brandon Rochelle of Tulsa is the Player of the Week, as they had 2-0 week last week, made the winning free throws in the Golden Hurricane victory over number 5 Houston on December 29th, and he followed that up with a 25-point, 13-rebound performance on Saturday, January 2nd, in their road win at Cincinnati. The freshman of the week is Caleb Murphy from USF. He averaged 13.5 points, 2.5 rebounds, and 2 assists in a 1-1 week for the Bulls. He had 20 points at Memphis on Tuesday and 7 points in a win over UCF on Saturday. And the second straight week that Murphy has grabbed the Freshman of the Week honor. The Player of the Week last week, by the way, was Tyson Etienne, the Wichita State guard, had 25 points in an overtime road win back on December 22nd over USF. The honors from women's college basketball. Bethy Manunga of USF is the Player of the Week. She shined in a pair of victories for the South Florida Bulls last week, averaging 17 points, 14 rebounds per game, while shooting 67% from the field. And Ilmaro Thomas of Cincinnati is the co-player of the week, continuing her amazing senior season with a big effort at Wichita State on January 2nd, 24 points, 17 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 blocks in that Bearcats victory. The freshman of the week, Jacayla Jordan of Tulane, earned top conference weekly honors for the third time as a freshman of the week. Had a 15 points on 7 of 10 shooting with 3 rebounds and 3 steals in a Tulane win over Memphis on January 2nd. And through 8 career games, Jordan ranks 3rd in the American with 15.6 points per game, shooting at a 44.7% clip. The previous honors for Player of the Week were Tania Thompson of East Carolina, and the freshman of the week was Joshua Clinton of Temple. We'll be right back with a final note from baseball and wrap things up on this edition of the AAC Report right after this.
Hello, Night Nation. This is Andrew Fagley reminding you to tune in every Tuesday night, 9 to 10 p.m. on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, plus the WDBO app for Nightline at Night. Brought to you by Chad Bar Law. We'll be taking your calls and your texts reacting to the previous week's UCF sports action, and you never know who will show up. Once again, that's Nightline at Night, every Tuesday, 9 to 10 p.m. on WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, plus the WDBO app. Go Knights and charge on.
Welcome. This is a promo for the Take a Left at Albuquerque podcast, new to the Nightline Sports Network. You should listen to it. I say things like this.
We need to stop blaming Jerry because we would do the exact same thing if we owned the Dallas freaking Cowboys. Do you know how much fun it is to own the Dallas Cowboys?
My guests will say things sometimes like this.
It's the Lord of the Flies thing that happens when they don't understand that things are wrong, spoiler alert, until Piggy dies.
Lord of the Flies has been out for like 100 years. I don't even know.
Sorry to everyone at home who I spoiled the book for. A book's been out for like 90 years or something.
And sometimes, rarely though, I'll say really stupid things like this. If they don't make it out of the West and the Raptors get to the finals, I will go on either this show or whoever's show and say that Kawhi Leonard is overrated because I have too much evidence of it. New episodes drop every Friday with me and some of my good friends right here on the Nightline Sports Network.
And we'll close out this week's AAC report with a note from baseball. East Carolina has been tabbed as the unanimous preseason favorite in the 2021 AAC preseason baseball poll, as voted on by the league's head coaches. Memphis sophomore catcher Hunter Goodman was selected as the conference's preseason player of the year, while Tulane redshirt junior Braden Olthoff has been picked as the league's preseason pitcher of the year. The preseason poll has East Carolina in the first slot, UCF at number 2, Tulane at number 3. They grabbed a first-place vote. Houston at 4, Wichita State at 5, Cincinnati at 6, Memphis 7th, and South Florida at 8th. And as far as the preseason all-conference team goes, the pitchers are Colton Gordon of UCF, Evan Shalver of Cincinnati, Jake Kuchmaner of East Carolina, Braden Olthoff of Tulane, and Liam Eddy of Wichita State. The relief pitcher, Jack Sinclair from UCF. The catcher, Hunter Goodman of Memphis. The first baseman, Ryan Hernandez of Houston. Connor Norby of East Carolina at second. Ben Brooks of Memphis at short. And Eric Santiago at the hot corner at third from Cincinnati, along with Trevor Minder of Tulane. The outfielders, Thomas Francisco of East Carolina, along with his teammate Bryson Worrell, and Cooper Kornblum of Wichita State, the DH Wyatt Stapp from Cincinnati. That wraps it up for this week's show. As always, please follow me on Twitter at JeffAllen_88 and follow the Nightline Sports Network at UCF_Nightline. That will do it for this week's edition of the AAC Report, only on the Nightline Sports Network. I'm Jeff Allen. Thanks for listening.